Growing up, I always thought my family was perfect. My parents seemed like the embodiment of love and stability. My dad was the rock of the house, steady, hardworking, and dependable. My mom was the nurturer, always smiling, always making sure everyone felt cared for. We were the family you saw in commercials, sitting at the dinner table, laughing, sharing stories. I believed we had no secrets, no skeletons in the closet. But as I grew older, little cracks began to appear. Subtle, almost imperceptible at first, a sharp word here, a distant look there. I shrugged it off. Everyone has their bad days, right? But it turns out I was just too young and naive to understand the truth. The truth that my family had been hiding from me for years, silently lurking beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life. It started with the late-night whispers. My parents were always careful to keep their voices low, but I could hear them through the thin walls. It was strange hearing them argue. They were always so composed in front of us. I'd press my ear against the door, trying to make sense of the words. Words like trust, betrayal, and mistake would drift into the room. My heart raced with anxiety. What could they possibly be arguing about? One night, my curiosity got the better of me. I tiptoed to the kitchen, where their voices were the loudest. Peeking around the corner, I saw my dad slam his hand on the table, his face red with anger. My mom looked away, her eyes filled with tears. It was the first time I realized my parents weren't as perfect as I thought, but I still didn't know why. That question haunted me. The first real clue came when I stumbled upon an old, dusty shoebox hidden in the back of my dad's closet. It was a treasure trove of old letters, photographs, and mementos. At first, it was innocent, pictures of my dad as a young man, smiling with friends. But then I found a photograph that didn't make sense. It was my dad, holding a baby that wasn't me or my siblings. The handwriting on the back read, "My little Emily." Who was Emily? My dad never mentioned having another child. I tried to brush it off, maybe it was a cousin or a family friend, but the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. My hands shook as I rifled through the box, hoping to find an answer. What I found instead was a letter. A letter from a woman I didn't recognize, thanking my dad for visiting her and Emily. The words, "I hope we can work things out," were underlined. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. That evening I sat my dad down in the living room while my mom was out. My heart was pounding as I showed him the photograph and the letter. "Who is Emily?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He froze. I had never seen my dad look so vulnerable before. He stared at the photograph for what felt like an eternity before finally speaking. "Emily is your half-sister," he said. His voice was heavy, laced with guilt and regret. He told me about a relationship he had long before he met my mom. Emily was his child from that relationship, and he had kept it a secret from us because he didn't know how to explain it. "It wasn't fair to her," he admitted. "I tried to be there for her when I could, but I failed her, and I failed you by keeping this from you." I didn't know how to react. Anger, betrayal, sadness, it all hit me at once. The man I had idolized my entire life had a secret life I knew nothing about. When my mom came home, I couldn't keep it in. "Did you know about Emily?" I asked her. She didn't seem surprised. Instead, she let out a deep sigh, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "I've known for years," she admitted. "Your dad told me about her before we got married. It wasn't easy for me to accept, but I chose to move forward with him because I loved him. We agreed to keep it a secret to protect the family. I didn't think you or your siblings needed to know." Her words stung even more. They had both chosen to keep this from us. But as much as I wanted to be angry, I could see the pain in her eyes. She wasn't proud of their decision. "I thought we were doing the right thing," she said softly. It took me weeks to process everything. I felt like I had been living a lie, but at the same time I couldn't stop thinking about Emily. Did she know about me? Did she wonder why my dad wasn't fully present in her life? I decided to reach out. With my dad's permission, I wrote her a letter. I introduced myself, explained how I had discovered the truth, and expressed a desire to meet her. A part of me was terrified she would reject me, but another part of me hoped this could be a new beginning, not just for me, but for our entire family. When her reply came, it was like a weight had been lifted off my chest. She was open to meeting me. She said she had always wondered about us and was glad I reached out. Meeting Emily was surreal. She looked so much like my dad, like me. We talked for hours, sharing stories and filling in the gaps of our lives. She wasn't bitter, but she wasn't completely at peace either. She had her own scars from feeling abandoned, but she was willing to start fresh. The rest of my family is still adjusting to the news. It's not easy unraveling years of secrets, but we're trying. For the first time in my life, I feel like I truly understand my parents, not just as my mom and dad, but as flawed, complex human beings who made mistakes and tried their best. Families are complicated. We love, we hurt, and sometimes we keep secrets. But the truth has a way of coming out, and when it does, it's up to us to decide what to do with it. For me, the truth brought pain, but it also brought connection. It showed me that even in imperfection, there's room for growth, forgiveness,